Yeah. So
yeah, please go on, Ekenzi.
I want to ask. I want to ask a question and also make a comment. The first comment is one. Even though I stand to be corrected, but this is my opinion. I believe, because I heard earlier when you said Benin was not an empire. I believe that, in what I presume to be the typical definition of an empire state, I feel like Benin was in fact an empire, but I stand to be corrected. And
Define
also,
empire.
Yeah, I think it's some sort of political conglomeration or establishment in the aspect of monarchy most times.
Monarchy and empire are not synonyms.
Okay, but you get my
You can
point.
have a monarchy. Oh, not really. Monarchy is synonymous with kingdoms. So a king would have a domain. That's kingdom. That's not empire. So if you're a monarch, you would have your own territory. So the king has a domain. That's a kingdom. The empire, when you talk about empire, you're talking about the combination of other nation states.
Exactly.
Who now,
That's what I'm talking about.
let me use this word. So other nation states looking up to one nation state, getting the sovereignty from that nation state. That's what the empire is made of. You don't have that just because and it's not based on influence. It's based on the fact that let me give you an example. Ife was an empire from the 11th century to the 15th century for 400 years. A lot of Yoruba kingdoms looked up to that town, not just for spiritual headship, but even for traditional and cultural headship. Your staff of office, you had to get it in Ife. Your political structure was modeled after Ife. So, empire. Oyo was an empire from the 17th century to the 19th century for 200 years. What they did was different from what Ife did. For Ife, people went out of Ife to create. For Oyo, people went out of Oyo to dominate. And then those people they dominated then looked up to the king in Oyo for political power, structure, whatever it is that they wanted to do. That's what an empire is. The third one that we have in Yoruba land was Ibadan. Ibadan was on his way to becoming an empire before the British got to Nigeria. What they did was they started spreading into different parts of Yoruba land, but those people had other kingdoms. Thank you for the gift. They had their own kingdoms. But this is how it usually works. You will have a kingdom. The kingdom will become very powerful. That kingdom will then either birth other kingdoms, like in the case of Ife, or conquer other kingdoms and create territories abroad. That's how empires work. Think of British Empire. Just because people wear clothes that look like you doesn't mean you are the emperor.
But I've seen several accounts or several records where certain places, especially maybe Delta State, for instance, where they were referred to as satellite kingdoms, where their monarch or their leader or their king referred to Benin as maybe like the capital or some sort of where the authority came from. And at some point, when
let me give you an example. Hold on, Ekenzi, hold on. Do you know Ijebu Ode?
Okay. Yeah, I know the name.
You know Ijebu Ode? Okay, so this is how Yoruba. Let me give you an example for Yoruba. So Yoruba is a nation, an ethnic group with tribes under it. Those tribes would usually have a capital. So tribes will be Ekiti, that's a tribe of Yoruba people, but they are Yoruba. Okun, that's a tribe. Ijebu is a tribe. Now Oyo was also a tribe originally, and it's still a tribe, although it now morphed into something bigger. But this is where I'm going. The paramount king in Ijebu land is the one in the capital. The capital is called Ijebu Ode. That does not mean now all those other groups, they receive, direction from this paramount king, but that doesn't make him an emperor. Ijebu Diawujale is a very, very important king in Yoruba land, but he's not an emperor just because there are other people looking up to his town. So whatever it is that Benin is making you guys feel in the south, is what our capitals all over Yoruba land have.
You do know the difference. There's a difference here.
I don't know the
Here is
difference.
that the difference now is these people were one and the same people. You understand? They spoke the same language, practiced the same culture, they were the same people, more or less. But this other setting, you see a people speaking not the same language, not even mutually intelligible, different culture, even though some borrowed. And then at some point, you would see, there's a record I saw, the British people that came around when they were planning to attack Benin prior to that incident, recording certain events and the timeline more or less. I observed a particular
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well,
continue. I'm just watching where you're going. Oh yeah. Yeah, please go on.
Yeah, my point is, at some point when these people revolt, there would be expeditions or what do they call it again, self? Preparations to attack them and then reconquer them or something like that, or any rebellion, anything like that, to force them back in line and even subsequently kill their king and then replace it with somebody from that. So this is different. This
See, Ekenzi. Let's not wait. Let's not. That's not what makes you an empire. You are not getting it. Let me read something to you from what an empire is. Number one, that's a strong kingdom. That's a very strong kingdom. Give them their flowers. But it's like when you see a young man who has been singing songs for 5 years, you call him a legend. That's what people do in Afrobeat. He's a legend. Everybody is a legend. I'm wondering, what are you going to call Sunny Ade? King Sunny Ade has been singing since I think the 60s, 70s. But the person who started singing 5 years ago, we call him a legend. This is something. So please go on and say it, and then we'll know that you have spoken.
As I'm saying, it's an offshoot. I want to say that even Benin itself is an offshoot of Ife Empire. From the way history has it, it's very clear that it's an offshoot of Ife Empire itself. So when he said empire, the word empire itself clears a kingdom, like you said earlier. You said a nation that is ruling over many nations. That's what an empire is. And everyone beyond Yoruba land, like being in Benin Republic or the Midwest or even North Central, most of them trace their ancestry to Ife. So I think that's a bigger definition of what an empire is. Ife is a big definition of what empire is.